I wish scientists were as respected as troops. People are always thanking the troops for their service, even though they do very little for our society or well-being. They are merely an asset of the imperial class. Scientists slave away in poverty when they're alive, and die in unromantic circumstances. Meanwhile they create human society in its entirety. We never tell scientists thank you for your service or erect tombs for unknown mathematicians. Scientists don't get any holidays, or discounts from Toyota. In fact, their works are often pilfered by entrepreneurs and research institutions looking to make a name for themselves. Yet if we could all drink the beaker fluid instead of bootlicking, we'd be a much better society. Upvoted because it's unpopular, but I disagree. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm a scientist and I ain't slaving away and I ain't poor bitch. Also, I didn't go down this career path for recognition. It did because I enjoy it. Also, the troops don't always get that much respect. It is celebrities that get all of the undeserved respect for doing fuck all. The military is a tool of your elected government. They do a job which may result in death or disability. You may not like what they're asked to do now, but in future they may be asked to do something you do approve of. And again, they'll risk their lives to do it. Scientists don't risk their lives. They go home at the end of the day. If they are risking their lives, then they're being reckless. That's the difference. The respect comes from the potential sacrifice. And this is not to say I don't think scientists should have way more kudos, because they should. Price's law basically states that a very small portion of the population produce half of all contributions. It is based on research into the publications of academics, and it revealed that the vast majority of published papers are unimportant and rarely get cited. Most scientists are not celebrated in society because they're not doing anything of value. I'm a weather scientist and a service member. There's a good bit of overlap in some instances. Smiley face. For example, the US Navy does a lot of mapping of the seafloor and other data in association with agencies like NOAA, which is also given to civilian institutions all around the world. So much science is done through the military, and not all of it is the warheads on foreheads type either. I do get your point, but it is kind of horribly inaccurate. Also, while I am not a huge fan of the whole thank you for your service thing, it makes me uncomfortable. At the end of the day, one of the reasons the military exists is to defend our way of life, and yes, I know you can make a million spin-offs about useless wars, the military-industrial complex, oil, etc., but the reason for the whole thank you for your service is that if push came to shove, then service members are some of the first to lay down their lives to protect and defend you and yours. Which you won't get from your typical scientist. Also, all the civilian scientists I know make way more than I do. Granted, I'm just a lowly enlisted weather boy. They most definitely do get holidays and are compensated well enough to not really need a discount from Toyota. By contrast, if you looked up my pay, I get a yearly salary of about $30K. I'll reap the benefits of that discount as much as I can. LOL. If anything, the world would be a much better society if those in political roles were much more aware of science-related topics, as they could then push effective restrictions and legislation. Can't we just respect both for different reasons? There aren't many poor PhD scientists. PhD students are poor and slave away and are never recognized for their work. We could use some thanks for keeping the research that makes research universities stand out and for teaching the undergraduates. Seriously, we all have STEM BS and get paid $30,000 a year. That's kind of fucked up if you think about it. I'll tell you what, I'll upvote this because it does seem like quite the unpopular opinion, and that's what the sub is for. But let me talk for a moment about the troops. 3 of my friends are dead. I hope that number never grows. My first mentor, my first instructor, and an officer I worked with at my very last unit before I separated. Accident, suicide, and plane crash, in that order. They, in my belief, deserve that sort of general respect people give to our service members because they didn't have to die when they did. The accidental death was related to the service. The suicide was related to PTSD from the service. The KC-130 plane crash happened during a training flight while in the service. They didn't necessarily give their life for this country, but they certainly died because of their service to it. There's nothing romantic about dying like that. It's horrible, and it's sad. The death I've seen has me messed up too, to the point where I can't go a day without running scenarios in my head as to what my best course of action would be should people start going down around me. I carry multiple IFAKs with me in my bag and in my car just for a little extra reassurance that I'm prepared to save people from traumatic injuries. Do you think I want to be like this? Some people romanticize dying in combat, but believe you me, there's nothing pretty, glorious, and romantic about someone being there one moment and then being turned into pink mist and a pile of ground beef the next. We have the tomb of the unknown soldier and other memorials because many good men died horrible and brutal deaths, only we don't know who they are and we might not ever know. At least with my friends, their families got their bodies back. You can argue that these men do very little for our society and well-being. We're in a period of relative peace. There's no major war raging in some far-off country that we're losing hundreds to thousands a day to. Maybe one day, but thankfully not right now. You can argue I myself did very little for our society and well-being. I'll admit that I have no idea how much of what I did helped our greater society and its well-being, but I know for a fact that what I did helped my fellow Marines and their families. And that's enough for me. That's all I care about. The pay ain't great for your average enlisted man. Certainly it isn't terrible, and there's plenty of great benefits too, but that's because of the risk vs reward. Nobody enlisted goes into the military looking to get rich, only fools. It ain't all selfless though. There's people there because it's a path to college, it's tradition, they think they want to see war, it's a paycheck when they couldn't find any other job, though I've seen people do this because their family has no other support so they send all their money home to them. But trust me when I tell you that the majority there, at least in the Marine Corps, are there primarily because they want to make a difference and they don't care who knows it. The pay ain't great, the free Navy medicine can be pretty crap too, and don't get me started on the barracks that should most certainly be condemned and deemed unfit for humans to live in. But it was home to me, and I wouldn't trade those 5 years for all the money and recognition in the world. A 10 to 15% discount when you're taking home $1,400 a month while working minimum 12 hours a week, 5 days a week, with at least 1 or 2 of those days being a full 24-hour duty is very much appreciated. I wouldn't call it poverty, but at times it sure did feel like slaving away, not that I'm complaining. A little thank you for your service was always enough recognition to embarrass me and get me to shyly reply back with my own thank you for your support. I don't speak for every service member, but I can tell you that all I ever cared about was that I did my job right. That way nobody had to needlessly die. All that, and more I'm sure, is why the troops are generally always supported and thanked. I don't want pity, I don't want thanks, I don't care for up or down votes, I just want people who don't know of these things to take into account a new perspective.